Okay, so get this. What if I told you that a bunch of brain cells just living in a petri dish could learn how to play a video game? I know, it sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it's really happening in a lab, right now. So the question is, how on earth is this even possible? Let's dive in and break down this incredible story.
You know, this whole thing really boils down to one fundamental question. Can a blob of living neurons, with no body, no eyes, no anything, can it actually learn? Can it adapt its behavior all by itself and get better at a task? And the answer, which is just astonishing, is yes, it can. Now, I know this diagram looks super complicated, but trust me, the main idea is actually pretty simple. Scientists took about 800,000 brain cells, put them in a dish, hooked them up to a computer, and taught them to play a simple version of Pong. We're going to walk through exactly how they pulled it off.
So how did they do it? Well, this is way more than just a cool party trick. This is the very first real demonstration of what researchers are starting to call synthetic biological intelligence. It's a brand new form of learning that kind of blurs the line between a living thing and a machine. And honestly, it could change everything. This really is a new frontier. We're talking about merging living biological neurons with traditional silicon computing to create a kind of hybrid intelligence. It's a system that can learn and change its behavior in real time, all based on feedback it gets from a virtual world.
To really get how this works, we need to take a closer look at the system itself. And the star of the show, the heart of the whole operation, is something they call the DishBrain, a mashup of living tissue, or wetware, and some very sophisticated hardware.
This diagram shows you the whole setup. Right in the middle, you've got the neurons in the dish. That dish is sitting on a computer chip. That's basically a two-way street. It sends electrical signals to the neurons, and then it reads signals from them. This creates what's called a closed loop, and it's what allows the neurons to both sense what's happening in the game and then act on it. Okay, let's break down exactly how this loop works. Step 1. The system senses. It zaps the neurons with electrical signals that tell them where the Pong ball is. Step 2, the neurons process that information. Step 3, they act. The chip reads their electrical chatter and uses it to move the paddle in the game. And finally, step 4, they get feedback, a totally different signal depending on whether they hit or miss the ball. Let's zoom in on the wetware. Yep, the living cells themselves. What you're looking at here are cortical neurons, the kind you find in the thinking part of your brain. And you can see how, over just a little time in the dish, they spontaneously start to grow and connect, forming these incredibly dense, complex networks. It's like a tiny brain building itself from scratch.
And now for the hardware. This complex-looking chip is the microelectrode array. You should think of it as the magic translator, the physical bridge that connects the biological neurons to the digital game world. It's covered in thousands of tiny electrodes that let the computer talk to the cells in their native language, electricity. Okay, so we've got the setup, but that brings us to the biggest, most important question of all. How does a dish of cells actually learn? I mean, they don't have a desire to win. They don't even know they're playing a game. So what is the motivation here? The answer lies in this really deep, kind of mind-bending idea called the free energy principle. Now, in simple terms, it says that systems, like our brains, they hate surprises. They are constantly trying to build a model of the world, and then they act in ways that make that world more predictable. Their main goal, basically, is to minimize surprise. And this is where the researchers got super clever. They used this no surprises principle to teach the neurons. When the DishBrain hit the ball, the system sent back a nice, orderly, predictable electrical pulse. The game just kept going. But when it missed, bam! It got zapped with 4 seconds of chaotic, random, unpredictable electrical noise. To the neurons, a hit felt calm and orderly, and a miss felt like total chaos. You know, you can think of it like a baby learning to control its arms. At first, it's just random flailing around. But through all that sensory feedback, it starts to learn which patterns of firing in its brain lead to purposeful actions, like grabbing a toy. The DishBrain was doing the exact same thing. It was learning which patterns of firing would stop the surprising chaotic noise and bring back its predictable world. And here's the proof in the pudding. These charts compare the learning system with a control group. Now, the control group got all the same information about where the ball was, but, and this is the key, it got no feedback about hits or misses. It was an open loop. And you can see right there in the data, in that condition, no learning happened. This proves that the feedback was the absolute essential ingredient.
So the theory is really cool, but does the data actually back it up? Did the DishBrain really get better at Pong? Let's take a look at the numbers. And the data is just crystal clear. This chart shows the average rally length, basically how many times the ball was hit back and forth. You can see that in just 20 minutes, both the human and the mouse neuron cultures showed a really significant jump in their ability to keep a rally going. They were, without a doubt, getting better at the game.
Now compare that to the controls. This might be a dish with no cells at all, or cells that got no feedback. Their performance was totally flat. This is the crucial piece of evidence that shows the learning effect was real and not just some random fluke.
And the learning didn't just show up in one place. It was across multiple metrics. For instance, the number of times the dish missed the very first serve, that went down. The number of long rallies went up. And interestingly, while both types of cells learned, the cultures made from human cells consistently did a little better than the mouse cells.
But here's the part that just blows my mind. The researchers saw clear evidence of learning within the first 5 minutes of gameplay. This isn't some slow process that takes weeks. This is rapid, real-time adaptation happening right there in a dish.
So a brain in a dish can play Pong. It's a wild headline for sure, but what are the real, profound implications of this discovery? Why does this actually matter?
This brings us right back to the core idea. The neurons had no concept of winning. Their intelligent behavior just sort of emerged from a much more fundamental drive to make their sensory world stable and predictable. It suggests that maybe intelligence itself is just a very sophisticated process of reducing uncertainty. The researchers themselves summed it up perfectly in their paper. They proved that neurons, when you give them a way to sense and act on an environment, when you embody them, they can spontaneously organize themselves to produce what, for all the world, looks like intelligent behavior. The future possibilities here are just enormous. This creates a whole new way to study the very basics of intelligence. It could let us test how drugs for diseases like Alzheimer's affect learning at a cellular level. It could inspire brand new kinds of AI. And it really is the first step toward true hybrid biological computers. Which leaves us with a final, mind-bending thought to chew on. If this level of adaptive, intelligent behavior can just emerge from such a simple system, driven only by the basic principle of avoiding surprise, what does that say about the nature of our own intelligence? And what happens when we make these systems bigger, more complex, and give them richer worlds to explore? We might be on the cusp of a whole new era of intelligence.